So, David, I'm hitting you up just like I am with everybody else with all this typical transfer portal recruiting personnel stuff. But yeah, you have that other thing going on there with the NCAA investigation. Jaden Rashada, the much publicized recruitment of him. And now the NCAA is circling back and there is an investigation going on. And what do we know at this point?
So basically, Andy Staples and Nick Delatorre did a really good video on this at On Three too. But basically, the contracts have came out, so we know exactly what Jaden Rashada was offered, what the structure was like. It's like a $13.85 million contract, with a $500K bonus, and then you had $231,000 a month for the first year. It just ridiculous numbers you would never pay a college athlete in the world. And I mean, you go down there, you break down the contract, and I will say that I am really, really close friends with the former owner of Gator Collective. Gator Collective is not an entity anymore, but I am friends and close with him. And when you break it down, like he's even told me that the contract wasn't supposed to be for that amount anyway. Like, so there was a big mix up with how it was structured, how it was typed out, all that other kind of stuff. And when you offer something to somebody like that, and then I guess you could say back out of it in a way, they think that's what they're getting. So like when you don't give that to them, then they're upset. They want to go somewhere else. But like in my mind, like if somebody's offering you that much money, like it seems too good to be true. Because I mean, even now, like even that NIL has been existing for what, 4 years now, 3-4 years. You still don't even see a contract come close to that for any kind of quarterback or any kind of top player. So, the way that was structured, and of course, the NCAA is investigating right now. And what they're really looking for is if somebody on like a university level, administration level, a athletic department level was in the negotiations with it, because that's a violation. You're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be between them and the NIL entity themselves. You kind of seen Florida State kind of go with it with Amaris Mims when he had visited. They drove him right to the collective. They tried to negotiate something. And you're not allowed to do that, especially when the kid is not even signed yet or anything like that. So that's pretty much what the NCAA is looking for. Was somebody involved at a university level, an employee that was getting paid by the university, was they involved in those kind of contract negotiations? And that's pretty much why there's an NCAA investigation going on.
So, Dave, has Florida's stance been, hey, we did nothing wrong. This is what it is. We're just waiting for the NCAA investigation to go through, or, hey, we're cooperating. And if there need to be adjustments to what we did, and we're kind of learning along with everyone else on how to navigate these kind of situations, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think at the university level, I don't think any university would publicly come out and say they did anything wrong anyway. But as far as I know, I've talked to some people behind the scenes that say, "Hey, everything's fine," and then you'll hear some other people say, "I don't know if everything's fine." But I would say probably a little bit of both. At the same time, they probably do want to know what happened and how they can prevent it from happening next time. That sort of deal as well. So nobody really knows what actually 100% happened. The people that would know is the people physically involved with the agents and the contractual obligations and the people that were around it. We don't know who was around it. Like, there's all speculation and everything. So, I mean, that's why they have the NCAA involved right now. And obviously you get into those situations, and you talk about like Miami, being involved with the Rashada stuff too. Are they dragged into this as well? There's rumors and speculation out there that they could go down. If Florida was to go down, Miami could go down too. So it's a really, really weird situation, especially for somebody like me that's obviously not physically close to the program. I'm up here in North Georgia, but of course I talked to a lot of the media personnel and some of the guys, some of the staff that does work there. And, I get some of the info from them. So nobody's really 100% on anything right now. So it's just a matter of just sitting and waiting and finding out what's going to go.
And Dave, you bring up a good point right there, because some of the biggest scandals in the history of college football, those particular players didn't even end up at the school that had the violations and had the NCAA come after them.
Yeah.
So that there is that. I also have to think, and I've caught some of it, but it's got to be 0.5% of what you've seen that Florida State and Miami fans have to be just loving this and having a heck of a time with it.
Well, yeah, as I was talking, if Miami does get dragged in, it's like everybody. Like, I mean, you had the Twins with John Ruiz, then you just had this thing with Florida State, and now you're having this thing with Florida. If something were to happen, and then, like whatever, the whole Big Three is on NCAA sanctions, level 2 or level whatever level they decide, but still, they're all on sanctions. So it's kind of funny when if you go and you follow Twitter, a lot of the trash talk and all that other kind of stuff. It is quite funny when you follow it, but at the same time, if you look at it from an outside perspective, if this something happens to come out of this, then everybody from the Big Three did it.
That's what we live in right now with the NIL and all of this business. It's just
Oh, yeah.
crazy. Somebody needs to get a hold of it, but that's where we are. We've got no commissioner. We've got no governing body. We've got each school doing whatever they want, and each conference, as we probably had the classic example was during COVID, every conference governs itself, does whatever they want. If we want to play football, we're going to play football. If we don't, we won't.
Yeah, they're making it up as they go, I guess.
We got Dave Soderquist here from High Top Sports. Dave and the crew dropping by here from time to time here at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate it, but catch the daily grind there at High Top Sports right here on YouTube. Transfer portal giveth and taketh away. Trevor Etienne would be the guy that everyone knows and understands was a top back in the SEC. Prince, I don't even want to try to pronounce his last name because I always forget how to. Moving to Ole Miss, so a couple big losses, and those guys both stay in the SEC.
Yeah, that's a big blow, man, when you look at it. I mean, you can try to sugarcoat it as much as you want. When you have, I guess, players come out and we've heard some comments from Prince William and Meelan talking about like some of the strength and conditioning or maybe some of the development there. He's been very vocal on Twitter. We've interviewed him before. He's a pretty straightforward individual. He's not afraid to be vocal a little bit. You hear him come out, he transfers there to Ole Miss, and then all of a sudden you hear, rumors of Trevor Etienne wanting to transfer to your Bane rival in Georgia. It's a big blow. I mean, when you look at Etienne, the production that he's put out, averaging 6 yards per carry, not even hitting, I think, his peak at the moment because of sharing, carries with Montrell Johnson. He goes over there to Georgia, and now you're going to have to play him. This is a guy that was you're probably most productive back when it came from a yards per rush perspective. But obviously, Montrell Johnson was the main back. He was the guy getting more of the carries, bulk of the carries and the yards. So, I mean, having to play against a guy that basically could torch some of these teams running the football, now you're going to have to play him in Athens, or not in Athens, but in Jacksonville just about every single year now. And of course, this new all SEC schedule, if any of your players transfer to another SEC program, the likelihood of you playing against them is pretty high. I think I talked to Nick the other day. It was probably about a couple of weeks ago. He said we could still take 4 more players if we wanted to. I mean, the concerning part, I guess, would be losing the good players. Like there was some players that you could tell just wasn't going to work out at the University of Florida. Not really big losses when it comes to, I guess, some of the. And I don't want to point fingers and point names out there, so I won't. But everybody that is a Florida Gator fan knows who was productive, who wasn't productive. Losing those players doesn't really hurt that much. Frees up some scholarships. You can bring in somebody else from the portal, or you can use it for 2025, however you want to use it. But losing, like you said, Prince William and Meelan, Trevor Etienne, some of these other big names, that does. It is a big blow. And, they always say, well, you can find a running back anywhere. And that is true. You have to have a decent offensive line to get any kind of running back production. And you got good ones coming in like Caden Daniels. You got Treon Webb that's sitting there as well. And Montrell Johnson and, Cam Carroll, he's coming back from injury too. So he'll be back in the fold as well. So it's not like you're missing that much, but you're missing a very, very, very productive player in that room. And of course, Human Meeling, leaving from that defensive line there. I mean, you've got Justice Boone coming back that was injured. I think that's a name that a lot of Florida Gator fans forget about because he's been hurt for so long. And you got Cam Jackson returning to the defensive line. You got LJ McCray coming in, who can be an immediate impact starter if he wants to be. And you just got a lot of good pieces like Searcy and a lot of the defensive linemen that you recruited in the 2023 class. So I think that, you're not that much in a situation to where it's really that bad to where, of course, I'm sure we're going to get into some portal talk here too, but you brought some good pieces into the portal too. So I think that it's not really as concerning if you're a Florida Gator fan, you follow it, but maybe as an outsider or a basic fan, you're looking at those numbers and you're like, oh, wow, that's not good.
We got Dave Soderquist here from High Top Sports. We appreciate Dave. The guy's dropping by here from time to time, break down the Gators, and you can catch him on a regular basis, of course, at High Top Sports. We got an SEC channel. Please grab the link in the description to check that out.
I would have liked to have seen Florida take another experienced wide receiver. I mean, you do have really, really talented wide receivers coming in, especially from the last class. Everybody knows what Eugene Wilson did. Ricky Pearsall leaving, so he's going to be out. But you have Eugene Wilson obviously returning his sophomore year, had a lot of good production, almost 600 yards receiving. I think he hit over 600 yards as a true freshman. And, you got your Aiden Mazzels and you got Shamir Dikey, who's coming in from Wisconsin. I would have liked to taken one more, just an experienced wide receiver. But when you look at it, you got Jere Hawkins, he's got speed. I mean, you've got a lot of speed coming in. There's just a lot of unproven wide receiver talent out there right now, except for maybe even Eugene Wilson, because we've seen him on the field. It's just the experience factor that I'm more worried about, the wide receiver room. I would have liked to have seen Florida take more. I mean, they did get one good offensive lineman from San Diego State, Brennan Crenshaw Dixon. You also got Devin Manuel from Arkansas, a 6'9", 310-pound guy. He can help shore up a little bit of that offensive line. No experience. I would have liked to have seen them at least get one more really, really good, talented, or experienced offensive lineman, considering how the offensive line has played. But also, you have a lot of experience returning to this offensive line, and you got a new strength and conditioning coach coming in. And you don't know how they're going to develop over the spring either. So I guess you could say that's probably a couple of areas that I wish they could have done a little bit better in. But at the same time, I can't really complain just based on the fact of if you look at experience and then you've got who you got returning and all that. So I can understand why Florida hit, or I can't even really say missed on some of these targets, but I can understand where they took the targets that they could get from the portal.
Dave, you know as well as I do that one of the ways to appease a fan base coming off an awful season is right after you lose to your rival, Florida State, that National Signing Day is only a couple of weeks away, and your fan base is looking at a top 3 or 4 class in the nation. And that's what the way it was sizing up for a long time. Yeah. It slips a bit late. There's some misses, gets dragged down to number 13. It's still a nice class for most teams across the country, but considering what it could have been, I can imagine that there was quite the uproar.
Yeah. I had a lot of talks with some fans. Obviously, I'm in a lot of these group chats. I go to some of these spaces, and you look at the overall class. It was number 3, and then it drops down to 16 on National Signing Day, and you have your head coach going to a press conference, and the first thing he says is, "Are you not entertained?" And the fans are like, "We are not entertained. This is not entertaining, Billy." But when you look at it, I said, well, in a way, you talk about the team being young. Well, a lot of young players played last year, right? Would it have been better to be in this scenario to where, you do drop to the 16th class, you only have like 17 commits, and you can get more experienced talent from the portal to come and supplement this while your young players are starting to grow? Would that have been a better situation for Billy Napier? Is that actually going to work out for him? Did that actually kind of, was it a blessing and surprise? Of course, we'll find out because of the portal, the transfers and whatever they do in the spring portal period and how they work out during spring practice and in the spring game. But I think in a way, just as from a standpoint of being bummed out from being the number 3 class to the 16, you did lose some elite pieces, but you're still able to keep your 2 diamonds, DJ Lagway and LJ McCray. They still stuck with you and they signed. So, you look at it, I think it's a better situation for Florida anyway, because I think they did need more experience and tenured players to supplement where, the deficiencies of where they have the young players. So I think it kind of worked out for Florida, but as I said, we'll see.
Dave, great stuff. You guys at High Top are good to me, and I appreciate you guys stopping by on a regular basis. High Top Sports, everyone on YouTube, and I assume audio platforms as well.
Yeah, we have just about every basic audio platform, most of the popular ones, Spotify, you got Apple, Droid, Google, all those platforms that are out there. We usually do that every time. Of course, we're on YouTube as well if you prefer the video. And we're usually live every Wednesday at 8:35. And then, of course, we have our live show with Stephen Harris there on Mondays.
Awesome. Dave, appreciate you stopping by, breaking things down for us.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, man.